In this video, I am going to show you all the products and steps needed to create a well-developed stencil onto the real skin. There will be also different techniques being used and some mistakes that I will show you how to fix as well. But up first, we are going to prep the fake skin. So all the products that you are going to need for skin prep is your green soap solution. This should be like a 10% of green soap and then 90% distilled water, or even just tap water just for this process. You'll need some paper towels, and what I really recommend getting is a bottle of alcohol, so you can put it in the spray bottle and just like squirt it all over the skin. I think this is going to really help with the adhesion. You can even get these ones here. They're pretty affordable as well, and they do help with it. That as well, you'll need some gloves. Now, this is a major part with how your stencils are going to stick. You can see I already put some stencils in here. So I have cleaned the skin before, and if you haven't cleaned it before, you're going to have a lot of that sandy texture and oiliness as well, which you can see it coming back in this area. So every single time that you are going to put a stencil on, you need to clean the skin, otherwise it's not going to stick very well. But the first thing you're going to do is grab some of your paper towel, squeeze that green soap solution on top, and really give this a clean. And I recommend cleaning both sides as well, because there's going to be oils on both sides, and we really don't want that to affect the adhesion of the stencil. So we're going to clean both sides. I do like to double cleanse the side that I am going to use, just to make sure all that comes off. And now we are going to dry this completely. We're going to make sure that there's no water drops left. If it's still wet, the alcohol is not going to do what it needs to do. And I know that you have the alcohol wipes, but sometimes it's just not enough for a skin like this with all the oil still stuck on the insides of it. It will just always keep coming back. So we are going to grab our alcohol spray, and I like to just put it everywhere, because when you are putting the stencil on, you don't want that oil to kind of slowly seep back to the area that you are going to work on. So we are going to rub this all the way through, just get it in every single part of the skin. And then we're going to make sure that's completely dry. But that is how we prep the skin. Now let's talk a little bit about different types of stencil paper. I have 3 on me right now to show you, which is the Spirit paper, the Melbourne Tattoo Supplies, and the Drago art that you guys get in the kit. So first up is the Spirit paper. I think this is really great for hand stenciling, and it has really good development onto a client's skin, but I have found that it doesn't work as well on the fake skin. Second is the Melbourne Tattoo Supplies one. I think this is the most consistent for every process. So if you want to invest in a really good quality stencil paper, I would probably go with this. But the Drago art here, the paper I will be using for today, the Drago art stencil paper, I think it is comparing between the other two. This is an in-between of effectiveness and quality. So I definitely think this is perfectly fine to get to the hand stenciling that you are wanting. So we'll go through those steps by hand and machine together. But to show the comparison between the papers, I have already taken out that translucent protective layer. So this one here looks a little bit like baking paper. The Melbourne Tattoo Supplies one has a lighter tone, and then the Drago art has like a very white color like this. But making sure that you remove this part first is very, very important. But comparing the color of the carbon paper as well, you can see that Melbourne Tattoo Supplies and the Drago art one is very, very similar in the consistency. This is very, very dark, but it doesn't sit on the fake skin very nicely. But now I will go through the hand stenciling with you. All right, I've got my printed out design here. There's 2 ways that you can do a hand stencil, and that's by putting the printed paper on top of this transfer paper, or you can put it directly onto the carbon paper and carve it in onto the normal paper. I do recommend doing it this way for hand stenciling, but I will show you both ways. The first way I am going to show you is directly on top of that transfer paper, and we are going to make sure that we tape this down so then the paper doesn't move around. If you don't tape it, then you are going to get a double lined stencil, and we really want to try to avoid that because we want to have a really nice clean stencil to start off with. We're going to move quite slowly. We are going to basically carve it in, and you want to put quite a bit of pressure into the line just to really try to pick up that carbon paper. And I do go over it a few times, probably 3 or 4 times, but you just have to be careful with not splitting the paper. But at least this way it has 2 layers to work on, and you can really take your time to just push it all the way in. I do find that carving it onto this transfer paper is a little bit harder to pick up the carbon, but the consistency of it, by leaving the paper onto the skin, it does look a little bit nicer. So we're just going to take our time to go through the whole entire thing just to ensure that all the color looks exactly like that. If yours look too light, then I would definitely go back over it again until you get that nice dark blue or even a medium blue color. And really take your time with that. If you rush it, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you really don't want to do that because this is your base. You need to have a confident stencil to follow while you tattoo, otherwise you're going to be lost. Okay, let's have a look. Always check. I can see that the V is not picking up as much as the rest of them, so I am going to go over the V again. Now that is the color that should come up when you are hand stenciling this way. Now this next part, I am going to go and do it directly on the A4 paper. This is a normal piece of paper. I'm basically going to do it in the same area that I just did in the last one, but I've just lifted up the transfer paper. Now we don't even need to obviously stick this down because it's just going to go straight on. It's a lot easier as well to work with, so just take your time with it still. But the pressure that you put in is going to pick up the carbon straight away. See that? Very nice and dark. Beautiful. All right, so this is the machine that we have at the shop. I am going to cut out that area that I had hand stencils so then I don't use that exact same spot. And I'll probably just clean it up a little bit by getting rid of all the areas that I've used. And I am also going to use the exact same paper that we just made the stencil on as well. But we're just going to want to put in the transfer paper and the carbon paper together. We don't want to put this through for this certain machine. Every machine is different. You can get a wireless one where you can just send it straight through from your phone. You don't even need to print out the paper. I am going to only print out a couple of the designs at the base of this. So that's why I'm only hanging it out that much, because this is the area that's going to get printed. but we're going to put the paper facing away. Probably about there, and copy. You need to see this come through in this area right there. And obviously I have made a mistake where this was not mirrored. So now it's backwards. But that's okay, we can still use this. I don't want to waste the stencil paper, but always remember every one of these have different settings, and you can definitely make the mistakes like this that I just did. But cool, we will go into the next section. Now, before we place the stencil onto the fake skin, one product that I do recommend getting is the gel deodorant stick. The one I will be using is the bright one, and the different brands is okay. I don't think that they're very different, just as long as they are gel. It's very inexpensive and also very handy for this step as well. But please keep in mind that this deodorant stick should only be used on the fake skin. You shouldn't be using this to stick stencils onto a client. That needs to be done with an actual stencil stuff. Alright, so now that we have all of our stencils all laid out, this is obviously the hand stencil on the transfer paper, this is the hand stencil on normal paper, and then this is the machine-made stencils. The machine-made stencils, I am going to use the stencil stuff on this side, and then for all the hand stencils, I am going to use the deodorant gel stick. It should look like this. But putting onto the hand stencil one first, I am going to lay out a pretty decent amount onto the skin. And you can see already that it takes out this shine, and that's really important that you try to get into that consistency, because if you don't put enough product on, you're not going to be able to actually stick the stencils on, and it's not going to develop, sorry. But it should glide pretty nicely. If it still feels like it's still stuck and really hard to rub, you're probably not having enough products on there. So we're going to rub a decent amount on. All right, first way, obviously we are going to use the transfer paper, and we're just going to lay it straight on. Try not to move it too much, but it should stick completely down like that. We're going to do the same experiment here. Sometimes it might actually separate, so I'd like to do a second layer, especially for the paper. But doing the paper, I definitely think that doing the push down and then removing it helps a lot more with the development. So pushing down pretty hard, and we're going to lift. You can see that, and you can actually use this multiple times if you do it this way. So I'm going to do it again next to it. It's lifting the other one. But be careful not to double it. I think this is a really nice color as well. I wouldn't want it to be too dark like this, because it does make it hard for you to actually see how deep your needle is going and how dark your lines actually are. But doing it this way, you can see the consistency of everything, and you'll still be able to build your lines up as well confidently. But we're going to put that on the side. Again, just layering up on the products. With this one, I am going to just leave it on. You still want to put pressure on it, because if you don't put pressure, it's not actually going to sit all on top of that skin. Because you need to remember, when you are creating it by hand, it creates these like divots in the back, and it's not actually touching the skin, because it's little mountains that's pushing it off the skin. And now on this side, I am going to put a little bit of cream on the side, because I don't want to put too much cream. I don't think it's really necessary. But with this, you are going to have to work it into the skin for a bit. I recommend just keep like rubbing and rubbing it. You can see the shininess, that's like the wateriness of the cream, and we want it to feel a bit tacky, so all that watery shine should just be gone. Is that on? You can see it lifting. So next thing we're going to do is put something really heavy on top, and what I recommend is actually laying a couple of pieces of paper towels so then it doesn't actually move your pieces, and you can put something heavy on top of this just to ensure that it stays down. When you put this down though, you got to be really careful of the stencils that we just put on here. We don't want to move this around too much, otherwise it's going to rub out. But we're just going to place flat and heavy on top. I am going to use multiple to really make sure that it stays down for a long time. But we will check on this tomorrow. All right, now this is the next day development. Let's have a look. You can see that one is completely stuck on now. Try our backward ones. Yeah, super dark color. I definitely would just go over with the bleach, a bleach wash on this one, sorry. And we'll open this one. Ooh, perfect. And this last one, not as nice, but that still works pretty well. And see, like this color, I definitely think that you won't be super confident going into it because you won't be able to actually see your lines, how dark they are. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to see, because then you can't make adjustments or any judgments on how deep you are actually going as well. But obviously doing it with the stencil machine has come out a lot nicer. But this is probably the color that I would prefer all of you practicing on the most, because then it's just a lot easier for you to actually see where you need to go, but still clear enough to see each of those lines. So I would probably suggest to do it that way. Otherwise, you just do the little bleach wash, leave it on for like a 24 hours or something like that, and it should lighten up a little bit. Now, from that last video, it does depend on what products you have, that you might need to change different techniques for it. If you have a stencil machine, obviously it makes a lot of things easier and you won't need to actually buy different products for it. It should be able to stick onto the skin pretty easily, but that is something that I do recommend in investing later on. I don't think that you need it to even just put it onto the skin. As long as you do your hand stencils correctly, I definitely think that it will go onto the skin pretty nicely. Now, our last section here is all about removing the stencil from the fake skin, or even lightening it, as like if you don't have a really nice stencil that went onto the skin that you want to remove, it didn't develop well, or did it like develop too dark and you want to lighten it, this is the process that you'll need. But the products that you'll need for this video are paper towels, bleach, A4 container for the files. This is something I really recommend because I made a lot of mess last time, and in this video I am doing it in a new way, in a better way, and that's with the A4 container, and I 100% recommend getting this part. But the next thing you will need gloves and a mask, because it is very fumy, and I would recommend doing this in a well ventilated area. If you have a laundry room, you can open a door, like the back door, or next to a window. That will be the best place to do this inside your house. But we'll go into the video. Well, I just want to quickly show you, if you put on a stencil onto here that you weren't happy with and it hasn't developed yet, this is exactly how you are going to remove it. And we are going to push this really hard to have the carbon paper stick on. And this is the same one that we used there, but let's say it has come out like this. you're just going to grab your alcohol spray and just basically spray it over the top and just wipe it away straight away, and it should not develop at all, and that will still give you a very clear and clean canvas to work off. All right, welcome to my laundry room. The first product you're going to need obviously is this is what I recommend getting. Make sure that the inside doesn't actually have any holes in it, so then that bleach doesn't leak out at all. So you got to check every single corner before you buy it. So first thing we're going to do is obviously we're going to lay down all of your fake skin that you want to remove or the stencils from, and then we're going to lay the paper towels in, but you're obviously going to also need some bleach as well. Put on some gloves. You do not want this on your skin, and there are quite a few that I want to remove. So we have these ones here. I'll lay down first. Make sure it covers all the area that you're wanting to get rid of. I like to drench it completely with the bleach just to make sure that it's fully covered. And I'm just going to layer it like this. Really good. Last one. You can see some of them are quite light in this, so I'm hoping that it will come off a lot quicker, but the darker ones will definitely take a long time. Close that off. And that's it. Now we are going to wait about 48 hours. And I'll probably come check again in 24 hours to see this top part, to see if that has come off or not, because you can clearly see it on top as well. So I'm just going to check the next day for you, but what I found was 48 hours was the best amount of time to remove everything, but I'm going to leave it here and not touch it. All right, so this is actually the third day of having this in here because I completely forgot to do that yesterday. But we will open up and see the results of what it looks like underneath. I think that is the biggest and darkest one that really needed that development. Cool, so you can see the paper towel is going to be so mushy. Alright, so I guess it doesn't work if you layer it on top, but looking at this top one, you can see that the stencil that was here, the clove one, is actually completely gone. There's just only a little bit left of it, but these bottom ones really need an extra time, I guess, and I guess it would have to be by itself as well. We can't really put it on top of each other. I think that is like the key thing that I have made a mistake on, but at least I know for next time, if I wanted to just take these off, I'm probably going to just layer them
take them out, clean it, and then put a new layer on. So I guess I would buy the smaller version of these, so then you can have multiple of them and also like get rid of it at the same time instead of having to wait the whole time. One thing that I also forgot to mention in this video is that you can actually just spot touch as well. So if you have like a design that you want to remove and you don't want to remove the rest of it, you can just drench like a piece of paper towel and just place it on top of just one. You don't need to soak it like this that I am doing with the bleach. You just need to soak the paper towel itself and just place it on the spot that you want to remove. But, I do think the best way to do it is to have it individually and just put the paper towel on top, because I have found in the past that has worked the best, and that's what I would recommend for everyone to do. And just leave it as long as you need to leave it, until either it comes out or it gets to the desired results that you are wanting.
But overall, I really hope that this video has helped and cleared a lot of things up with like areas that you are stuck with, and just to ensure that you have a clear stencil to work off, because that is your foundation. If you don't have a nice stencil, you're not going to be very prepared and confident going into your first few tattoos. But yeah, I hope this has worked out, and I cannot wait to see your work come through. I hope you have a good day.